A semester has a rhythm that develops partly from the institution's structures and partly from my own. I break a semester into sections, and I work from a core belief for each class. For survey sections, it's that everybody should pass if they try. Survey has no prerequisites. It's a core requirement, and it is supposed to be appropriate for all levels. But I also have to meet certain institutional requirements, and I have educational goals of my own, so I have to balance a lot of different needs. The syllabus is set up so that if a student is just bad at a certain skill set, they're a terrible writer, they're bad at taking tests, whatever, they won't fail the whole course. They probably won't earn an A, but they won't earn an F either. It takes a lot of slacking off and a refusal to ask for help to fail one of my survey classes. I give extensions, I don't require doctor's notes, and I'll offer makeup schedules if they ask for them. But the common thread is they have to ask for help. The key is that they have to try. Show me your effort, and I'll work with you. Failure is a vital part of learning. I know I didn't get where I am without a lot of failure. The important part is learning how to get back up. And honestly, this is the lowest the stakes are ever going to be again in their life. The vast majority of my students are under 23. Most of them don't work. And if they do, that job isn't supporting a family or keeping a roof over their head. Failing a single class doesn't affect loan status or scholarship eligibility. That said, I do have students that do have those pressures and a variety of others. But those students, usually older, veterans, in the workforce, single parents, self-paying their tuition, or a combination of those, already understand the stakes. These students, the non-traditional students, usually have already learned the lesson on failure before they get to my class. Even still, my non-traditional students benefit from that core belief in the syllabus that everybody, if they put in some effort, should pass a survey course. So when life happens, and more recently when a COVID-19 positive comes in, my students know that at the very least, they do not have to worry about my class. We'll figure it out when the life stuff settles down. Of course, I'm also teaching them content. Regarding content, I have a lot of freedom. I usually teach Introduction to World History, and I can start at whatever point in time and place I choose. While there have been terms where I've started in the 1500s with the Protestant Reformation and the Age of Exploration, which is a great starting point for a Western Civ class because that's the start of Western global domination, I find it doesn't work as well for world history. Why? In a word, Asia. Specifically, China and India. If I start in the 1500s, I actually miss almost all of their dominance in the world, reducing them to derelict empires conquered by Europeans. To teach a truly global history, I start with the Indus, Yellow, and Yangtze River civilizations. It does mean I'm covering 5,000 plus years of history in 15 weeks, but I believe it's necessary. Since there is so much to cover, I focus on a main theme: empire and colonization. This allows me to cover issues of religion, gender, class, social structures, warfare, and many others. Everything comes back to empire, expansion, and colonization. I do my best to balance stories tied to the theme with fun stories of people just being people. I'm still working on that, but I'm getting better every semester. I break the survey semester into quarters, 3 to 4 weeks where they learn an important skill. First, they learn the basics: identifying primary sources, recognizing important information, the necessity of proper citations, though they do work on format throughout the semester. Second, they learn about historical context and how it can affect their reading of the source. Third, they learn source analysis of both primary and secondary sources. This includes learning how to identify the importance of a source and how to defend their choices. And then they put it all together, which is when they should find themselves being able to analyze what they find online with more ease. I record video lectures for my asynchronous classes, which are fundamentally the same as my lectures for my face-to-face classes. I assign primary sources and a chapter or two of the textbook every week, and I frequently assign third-party videos. I use Crash Course and extra credits throughout the term, and I use Ancient Americas and Kings and Generals in the first quarter as well. Even though there are many good videos on ancient topics on other channels, I am not willing to endorse those channels, even implicitly, by assigning them in the first quarter of the semester. Those sort of videos will come later in the semester when they have learned a bit more about how to assess online sources. In the first 3 to 4 weeks, homework questions are about finding information and explaining implied information in the sources. The first quarter is a bit more flexible because I am also finding out their baseline. Since survey courses don't have prerequisites and I have no idea what they learned in high school, I devote a good bit of energy to questions that help me figure out where everyone is. By the second quarter, they're working on historical context and placing sources in a larger timeline of events. I am also expanding their assignments to things that look less formal on the surface. I start to include music and art as primary sources, and I step away from the formal textbook. The third quarter is tougher. It's around midterms, and I am asking for more in-depth analysis. The questions are asking them to make judgment calls, and for those conclusions to be supported with evidence. Remember, when you're fighting with a historian, we don't just have receipts. We have citations.
Well, anyone who dances for it is eligible. Rule 30, paragraph 5, asterisk, down at the bottom. Okay.
An interesting wrinkle here are the students who try to analyze the document as if it were for an English class. They don't get it when I say we're doing a historical analysis of the document. But they don't have trouble understanding when I ask them to pull evidence from the text to support their answer. In this case, I don't tell them they're analyzing historical documents until they've done a few. It helps them get out of their own way. Finally, the last part of the semester is putting it all together. They're analyzing documents, they are placing them in historical context, and they are making connections. The last few weeks of homework often feature complex, multi-part questions, or ask them to draw conclusions based on several weeks of work. It's the hardest part of the term. Adding to that, their semester-long project is due at this point. Someday, one of my students will realize that every quarter of the semester lines up with the work that they should be doing on their semester-long project at that point. Most of them miss the structural parallels, but they absolutely see the results. That is good design.